We are live. We are live here. Hello, everybody. Fiona here from Harley Street Emporium with the very lovely Sam Evans. Sam talks sex and founder of Jo.Divine, which is a. Is it only online, or do you have a physical presence? Only online, yeah, online sales point for quality intimate products. Is that a fair description, Sam?
Yes.
Excellent, because as we know, and what we're going to talk about tonight is a lot of them are not quality products. I think it would surprise a lot of people to know that when you think about, if you walk through a supermarket shelf at looking for intimate products, lubes and moisturisers and things like that, and even what's sold online, you would think that they had quite a lot of regulation over them, wouldn't you, Sam? But they don't, do they?
No, they don't. And actually, the market is getting bigger and bigger. It's worth billions, the intimate hygiene industry and the lubricant market. Obviously, my own industry, I find it very frustrating. But we are one of the few companies that actually only sell skin-safe sex toys and irritant-free sexual lubricants and vaginal moisturisers. And we've done that for 15 years. And there's a reason for that. But I find it very frustrating because they're widely available, these products, not the ones we sell. On the high street, in the supermarket, being promoted online by influencers, doctors, being promoted in GP practices and to cancer patients. And it's actually really frustrating. And it's really like I say to people, be an ingredients detective. You and I have talked about this before. Always check the label. If you don't know what an ingredient is, Google it, but have an idea of what the ingredients are that you should be avoiding. And if a product stings, itches or burns, wash it off. Or if you're getting thrush the next day or a few days later, or you're getting a bit of cystitis, think, could it have been that product that I've actually been using? So, this is really important. But let's face it, the intimate hygiene industry was created for a problem that doesn't exist. Our smelly vaginas, because they have their own little ecosystem and we should just leave them alone because they're quite happy getting on with like a self-cleaning oven. And yet, all these products disrupt our ecosystem and our friendly bacteria that we love and actually do a lot more harm than good. So, which then means people then reach for the Canesten pessaries or, oral medication or have to have antibiotics, or then they reach for a wash to soothe the itching. And it's a vicious circle, really is.
Yeah, exactly. So, going back to the very, very beginning, there's a very good study which was done by Nick Panay and one of his colleagues called Edwards, whose the first name I have now forgotten, which is rather,
David Edwards, yeah.
Very much. and in that, I mean, when you said recommended by doctors, a lot of doctors I've spoken to as well have absolutely no idea really about, the osmolality and the pH and those sorts of things and what should be in it. So let's start with the pH. What should the pH be and why does it matter?
Okay, so the pH of our vaginas is 3.8 to 4.5. So it is this range. And then the anus is greater than 7. So the problem is a lot of these products, the pH is wrong on them because of the ingredients that are in them. So this is a real problem. So you then introducing something into the vagina which is then disrupting your pH. And then that sort of, affects the vagina flora and your friendly bacteria. It causes irritation and itching and stinging. It could cause thrush or bacterial vaginosis, so the fishy smelling discharge. So that's the reason why. But people can get fixated on the pH sometimes, and we're all slightly different. I'm sure if yours was measured and mine was measured, it would be different, and it changes throughout our lives, with our menstrual cycle, when we have babies, when we go through menopause as well. So the pH can actually change. But it's often in menopause when people do notice those vaginal changes and we're actually having problems and they really don't know what they should use. So what do? Reach for something out of the kitchen or bathroom cupboard or grab something off the shelf in the supermarket or chemist.
Yeah, because actually with menopause, the pH goes up a little bit, doesn't it? Sort of starts to head more towards 5, and that's why we often get more of the infections and those kinds of things. So the other interesting thing is that not a lot of products, or not all products, actually say what their pH is. Should there be something that regulates that market to say what your pH is?
Well, I think the problem is the ingredients more than anything, because the ingredients is affecting, that's what the problem is. And a lot of these products have those irritating ingredients. But I think a lot of the brands don't really care. A lot of the products are made with cheap ingredients like glycerin, which is a big problem. and propylene glycol. And, it's basically just getting the product out there and people can use it. I mean, people's view is if it's slippery, then it must be suitable for sex. And my view is, well, actually, no, a lot of stuff isn't suitable for sex, even the stuff that has been designed for intimate play and to moisturize your vulva and vagina as well. But yeah, a lot of brands, they wouldn't put the pH on it, but don't get me wrong, some brands don't even put the ingredients. So when I'm telling you to be an ingredients detective, you can't find the ingredients on it, then put it back on the shelf.
Absolutely. So this is a bizarre thing, isn't it? Because you'd think that they would be, we touched on the regulation, you'd think that they would be regulated, but they slip between two pillars, really. They slip between the cosmetics industry and they slip between the medicine. So there's nothing there that's really, basically you and I can whiz into the kitchen tonight, whiz up a pot of something, put it on the market, and as long as we don't make an outrageous claim, most people aren't going to bat an eyelid. Which brings me to the other thing that beyond pH, because we'll get to the ingredients in a second, osmolality. Now, osmolality is basically the concentration of particles dissolved in a solution. So basically, we're talking about how strong something is. And, there are WHO recommendations on this, aren't there, that basically say it should be ideally under 380, but they will allow up to 1200. But in that study with Edwards and Panay, the vast majority...
3,000.
Way off the chart. And if they're
really low, I mean, the hypoosmotic ones aren't really going to cause too much problem, I don't think. It's the hyperosmotic one. So the well-known brand that is recommended, was always recommended the NHS and caused me all my problems, that is really hyperosmotic. So this means that, I mean, the science behind it, which try and be basic about it, it draws moisture out of the cells of the inside the walls of the vagina. So it actually exacerbates vaginal dryness. So actually you might think it works sort of short term, but in the long term, it's actually drying those tissues, So this is why we do talk about osmolality. But obviously, again, you say doctors and healthcare professionals don't know about this. It's not put on, on packaging. But, some people say, well, are we now worrying too much about it? But actually, we know these products are problematic for a lot of people.
They can damage the mucosa, can't they?
They can. The actual epithelial cells, and they actually cause it irritation, and then this causes the inflammation, and that can lead to soreness and dryness, and also then as soon as you're dry, then you open yourself up to infections because you get microabrasions when if you're having penetrative sex or even using a sex toy, and then you've got these little cuts in the tissues of the walls of the vagina. So it opens up.
My dog, I'm sorry, it's a signature thing really these days. At one stage during any live, the dog will bark. I apologise. Should we stop now? My neighbours must have moved. How dare they? Sorry, Sam, what were you saying?
I was just saying, so if you've got this irritation and inflammation, and then during penetrative sex or using a sex toy, you've got microabrasions, and then that opens you up to infection, and not just thrush and bacterial vaginosis, but also STIs as well, because the walls are thinner during, the walls thin during menopause as well. So this is what a lot of the problem is. The products are exacerbating your vaginal dryness and your vaginal atrophy, and they're not actually helping you at all. So it is, osmolality, again, I remember when I first saw the research, was it 2015? I think it came out, and I sort of got the table. It's now my almost like Bible, the table of comparison charts of the well-known brands that all sit on the shelves across our high street and are recommended by doctors. And you go, oh my goodness, like I would read and go, I didn't know it had that ingredients. It was sort of, I was sort of starting to learn more and more about ingredients and the well-known products that actually have these ingredients in it. But we are, more and more brands are sort of starting to realise about ingredients. The problem is they're saying it's glycerin-free, parabens-free, but it still contains propylene glycol, or it still contains alcohol or dyes or perfume. So it's not free from irritating ingredients. So they're trying to sort of market it. Oh, somebody said, I know I have to avoid glycerin, so I can buy this one. But actually, no, you need to check the whole ingredients label. So.
Very true. Well, let's start on this. All right. So glycerin, I know, is your pet hate. So what's wrong with glycerin in a lube or a moisturiser?
Okay. So glycerin creates a sugary environment inside the vagina for thrush to thrive. And it's also a very sticky ingredient. So that makes the lubricant feel very sticky and tacky and not sexy or pleasurable. But also, it's a cheap ingredient. It's what caused me 20 years of recurrent infections. from 23 really up to sort of early 40s until we set up a company, my husband and I. We were using the two well-known brands, had no idea that I was constantly getting thrush, bacterial vaginosis, cystitis, urinary tract infections, kept going back to the doctor for treatment, antibiotics, Canesten, because you're going to get Canesten over the counter. No one asked me about my lubes, nobody asked me about sex life, what was I washing myself with, what knickers were I wearing. I feel really angry about this, but glycerin is something I will go on about until the end of days. And I was frustrated because the other day there was a sexpert said, oh, I think I've got it wrong about glycerin, it doesn't cause thrush. And I thought, yeah, you didn't live with me for those 20 years, you didn't live inside my vagina. It was like, I find it frustrating when people dismiss it. But often it's because they're promoting, or they're the ambassador for a brand, so they've got to be on their side of that brand. But I find it frustrating when medical professionals say it too. So glycerin,
I guess then maybe they're coming to the point, because we do naturally have a little bit of glycerin in our vagina anyway, but if you're adding an extra load to it, the pH is already not where it probably should have been, or where it was to keep these things under control, then you're sort of inviting a bit of a bacterial overgrowth, aren't you, or a fungal.
Yeah, I mean, just this week I've given advice. I've had 3 women come to me, saying, thank goodness you told me about the lubes, because I was a recurrent thrush sufferer, and some people posting on Instagram, and just saying, thank goodness I came across you, and it's a big problem. It is in the top 3 most Googled terms, thrush. So it obviously is a problem, but don't get me wrong, not all itching is thrush. So obviously there are other genital skin conditions that people self-treat for thrush and they've actually got something else, but it is a problem. And we know most something like 75% of women will have will have thrush at least once. Some of us will have it for much longer, but I mean, obviously I'm everything, I'm fine, don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely fine now, so that's brilliant. Now I found what the root cause was. So that's glycerin. Propylene glycol, this is, again, these glycerin and propylene glycol are humectants. So they basically are put in these products sort of to make them sort of a bit sticky and glide, but propylene glycol is often the ingredient that causes this stinging when you first put it on. And that's not just on a vulva or inside a vagina, it can be on a penis and inside the anus too. And again, it irritates the tissues of the vulva and the vagina. And as I said, some of these products may be glycerin free, but they've still got propylene glycol in it. So again, they're the sort of 2 things. And it's about the concentration, as you say, with any product that you use, whether it's a lube or food substance, is the amount. So often a water-based lube will say aqua, water, and then it will be glycerin, then propylene glycol. So it's the amount of ingredient that's actually in the product.
So if you do have a glycerin or a propylene glycol or something, then you try and make sure they're at the bottom of the list. So they're the least.
Yeah, but really don't use products that contain them, because there are products out there that don't contain that are much better for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. I mean, even finding ones, you're just going through the list. I mean, it's a rare thing to find something that doesn't have I have to look over this, as some type of cellulose, a hydroether cellulose, a glycerin, a propylene glycol. They seem to be, omnipresent.
Or sorbitol as well. That's a new ingredient, and you will find that's part of all the, sorbitol's a sweetener. It's, it's put in gum, isn't it, and things like that. So again, that's something that has been put in. So I often say to people, if you're not sure what the ingredient is, Google it, because you'll probably find it's a propylene glycol of some sort. It's glycol, or it's glycerin, or it might be parabens, or if you're really not sure what it is, then just Google it. Yeah. So the next thing is parabens, and we know that a lot, they are weak hormone disruptors, but we still don't have the full science behind them. But really, it is to be cautious with them, and actually, they are preservatives in products. So that's why they put them in, but they're removing them from a lot of sort of skincare products and body care products as well. So really, if they're removing them from your deodorant, then you don't really want to be putting something inside your vagina, do you, that contains parabens? Because
this is the thing, actually, we often kind of think, oh well, if it's safe to put on my face, it's got to be safe to put somewhere else in the body, but that doesn't necessarily carry, does it?
No. Lady the other day, she said, well, couldn't I just use my body moisturiser? And I'm going, well, no, because it's not been designed for internal use. And this is something I get across to people. Don't pick stuff out of your kitchen or bathroom cupboard. Never designed for internal use. Great for cooking or massaging onto your body, but it was never designed for internal use. And I think a lot of people just think they can slap any old thing on. So we've got glycerin, propylene glycol, parabens. dyes, because obviously these products have to be dyed bright green or blue or purple, so you have a purple vulva. Again, it's an irritant, you know. Then you have perfumes. So obviously people like flavoured lubes, and I understand that if you're having oral sex, but I often say to people, if you are sensitive, wash it off, you know, before you have penetrative sex. And some products actually have natural flavourings in them, which are okay. I mean, I probably wouldn't use a flavoured lube, but it's not just flavoured, it's, you know, sort of strawberries and vanilla and lavender and rose, and, you know, and we don't need these products. You don't need perfumes. Well, we've got perfume menstrual products and scented condoms, and we know that, you know, perfumes and scents will disrupt and cause irritation as well. And then you've got
alcohol base, aren't they?
Well, I was going to say, talk about alcohol. Yeah, they do. So we know that alcohol is very drying, isn't it, to our external skin as well. And then the other thing that has sort of cropped up recently is glitter. Oh, I just have no idea.
How are you going to get that out? I mean, it might be a self-cleaning oven, but it's going to be taking up
disco vulva. Yeah, I don't know. And then the latest, the new kids on the block, and I have done a bit of research on this today just to find out, because I've been contacted by brands saying, oh, our product would be perfect for your website, and obviously they haven't bothered to look at our website. CBD lubes. Yep. We don't know what CBD does to the microbiome, our friendly bacteria inside our vagina. There is no research as such. And so a lot of the evidence is anecdotal evidence. You know, we have CBD tampons, and, you know, obviously people who have painful periods say it helps, but we really don't know. And often those CBD lubes, it may be the base lubricant that contains irritating ingredients too. And I was reading today sort of saying, well, you're better off going for an oil-based one, you know, which has got CBD in it. But then anything that's oil-based will destroy latex condoms. So again, that's not suitable for everybody. So with the CBD lubes, a lot of us are on the fence at the moment, but they are coming and they're already here. But, you know, until I actually see the clinical evidence-based research to say they are safe, I would not ever be recommending them, using them, or selling them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast last night with one of my favorite American speakers, Lauren Stryker, who's a gynecologist and obstetrician in Chicago, I think, actually. And she was at the Ishwish conference, conference for sexual health. Yeah. And she was rounding up all of her colleagues and asking them, which products would you like to have removed from the market immediately if you could? And one of the doctors that came back and said basically anything that is supposed to be designed for warming, has CBD, for improving erotic stimulants, things like this. They're basically no evidence, possibly damaging. Get them off the market was her view. So there you go. So it's interesting that you mentioned that with the CBD, because you're right. Absolutely, everybody's like, oh, it's got to have this in it. That is the buzz flavour of the month.
And going back to those tingling, cooling and warming ones as well. Again, we don't sell things like that, but, you know, like peppermint is the cooling one. Well, I mean, I tried something the other day that had peppermint in it. Had to wash it off my vulva straight away, because I thought, well, I've got to test this, because we get sent stuff, and I thought, okay, well, let me see if this is okay. But, you know, and then the warming ones have what you would find in chili. So it's never pronounce this, capsium. So, you know, my view is you wouldn't stick a chili up inside your vagina. So why do you want to rub that on? But don't get me wrong, some people really like them. They don't have irritation. But, you know, you and I, you know, we've had issues, and with our intimate health, and also we're helping people who have issues with their intimate health. Yeah. But my view is people really care about what they put on their skin and their hair and their body. So why don't they care about what they put inside the vagina and on their vulva? People spend hundreds of pounds and having treatments, and, you know, and it's like, I said this at an event last night to the room, and it was like, think about what you put inside your vagina or on your vulva. And I really don't think people actually think about it being a highly absorbent, highly sensitive part of your body.
Yeah, I mean, you could absorb medicines through that skin, through that epithelium. So if it's absorbing those, if it's absorbing your Eutrogestin, what else is it absorbing? Yeah. It's a very good question. And speaking of the spearmint and peppermint and things like that, I've noticed recently that people are starting to try and market them as you know, cooling and calming and relaxing for irritated vulvas and things like that. But you're exactly right. I mean, it's like, was it Soap and Glory or whatever? Remember that brand that had sort of like it gives you that cool, fresh, tingly feeling when you use it on your skin.
Mm.
If you put that anywhere near your ultimate bits, you're gonna know.
Well, you often hear about people. There was that brand, wasn't it? Tea tree shower gel. In men and women were going, "Oh my god, I've used it in the shower." It's like, it's stinging, and it's like, well, you've actually got it on your penis, or it's actually gone inside and got onto your vulva, and it's like exactly the same. But it's actually being careful and doing a skin test. I always say to people, pop a little bit on your labia. If you don't have a problem, then it should be okay. But the rule of thumb for me is, well, just make sure you buy something that's decent. Don't buy anything that contains these ingredients. And actually, people who do have a problem, they're all more likely to be an ingredients detective. That's why we get a lot of inquiries about, can you give me more information about your lubes? And the website's covered in it, in information. But I'm always happy to explain to people the reason why, and the reason why I use it. That's the other thing as well, being able to recommend something that you have used, like the product I used the other day. I can't recommend it because I couldn't use it, so I'm not happy. But don't get me wrong, there are people out there, if they want to use it and they're okay. And I've got people who are quite happy to use the leading lubes, and I never had a problem. You go, well, I never had thrush. It's like, you're very lucky, so I call them cast iron vaginas.
I guess better than sandpaper ones. You mentioned alcohol there before. So, I mean, we know that, benzyl alcohols, and because there are different types of alcohols, aren't there? There are some alcohols that, you would find in a skincare product that are good, like cetyl alcohol and things like that. So should we be discerning when we're looking at the back of a product, and anything that says alcohol we say no to, or if it's got a cetyl alcohol, are we thinking, okay, that's all right, but if it's got a benzyl alcohol, no, put it in the bin?
Well, I avoid products that have got alcohol in them personally, because I just don't want to take the risk of, it could be, because I think also once you have a sensitivity, then you're more sensitive to stuff. So, but I say to people, just try it. And actually, often people come to say, well, I can't work out, if it hasn't got the culprits, as I call them, in it. I'm going, well, what else has it got in it? And then often say, well, it's actually got that in it. That could be a problem. Because people even have a problem, aloe vera is always being recommended. Oh, it's so natural. But actually, a lot of people are allergic to aloe vera. And also flaxseed oil. That actually can be problematic for people. Some people actually have kiwi allergies. And so kiwi vine extract is in one of the lubes that I know about. And it was a breast surgeon who said to me, he said that he didn't realise one of his patients had a reaction to it. And obviously, because she thought, obviously thinking it's safe. Yeah, safe to use when you've had breast cancer. But she'd had a reaction, and it turned out she had an allergy to kiwis. And actually, kiwis and strawberries are often the allergens that are highlighted with vulval pain as well. They're quite common, those things that actually can trigger, sort of vulval pain as well. So, that's why, even if something says it's natural, then, my view is arsenic's natural, but I'm not going to be drinking it or eating it, or it's my view is and there are natural products that are actually fine for you. So it's
what about if it's organic arsenic? That's the other.
Okay, well, that'll be fine. Vegan, it'll be fine.
Speaking of that, actually, if you are a vegan, are there products that are good for vegans, or are all of them vegan? That's something I hadn't actually thought about, really.
No, actually. So basically, like oil-based lubricant, it's got beeswax in it, so it's not vegan friendly. But obviously, a lot of people aren't really that worried about upsetting the bees too much. It depends if you find it works for you and you're a vegan and you go, well, actually, this is the only lube that works for me. And I think the Yes water base and the Yes vagina moisturiser, I think they're vegan friendly. We've got Sutil, Luxe and Rich. They are vegan friendly. They're not gluten friendly because they've got ota beta carotene in it, and we were told that there could be traces from a field next door where the oats have been grown. So the manufacturer, she doesn't ever want to say to people, this is gluten free, but I mean, it's such a small amount. So it's actually trying to find a product that is vegan friendly. But often people say, well, it's vegan friendly, and then you're looking at, well, actually, it's got sort of not very good ingredients in it. Same with sex toys as well, are they vegan friendly? And pink isn't a vegan friendly color because it's often from the cochineal beetles, but actually they've got synthetic colors now anyway. They don't go crushing up the cochineal beetles and to get the coloring. So
Oh, the
You can imagine
vision.
there with a mortar and pestle crushing at all the beetles. So, yeah.
What other preservatives and microbiocides, chlorhexidine and things like that? Are they things to be sort of?
I was a nurse. It was like this pink wash that you used to sort of use your pump and sort of wash your hands with, and it was really strong smelling stuff. So yeah, chlorhexidine, and the other one I can never pronounce is the non-oxalin 9. Not how do you pronounce it? I'm not even sure, but basically that, yeah, just avoid it. Problem is that a lot of these sort of micro besides, they're sort of like, they kill your friendly bacteria, the lactobacilli that protect, the microbiome of a vulva and vagina. And they're just not very good for you. I mean, it's the same with spermicidal gels as well. They actually, on condoms and things like that, that actually can be a problem. And the other issue as well with condoms, I was talking to a friend, he's a doctor, and actually he was having an issue. And we said, well, you probably haven't got a latex allergy, but we think you may be having an irritation from the lube on the condom. So, a lot of condom brands and some of the most well-known condom brands don't list what the ingredient is in the lube on the condom. So, again, that can be problematic. We sell one brand, Skins, Skins, and it's lubricated with silicone lube. So you're less likely to have a problem. But if you don't actually know what it's lubricated with, and I remember asking one condom company, what's in the lube? And they went, oh, it's all natural. It was like, well, what are the actual ingredients, please?
That's not what I said. I
me.
didn't ask, is it natural? I asked what was in it.
What was in it? And actually, when you do try and ask these companies, sometimes they are quite cagey about what the ingredients are.
They really
and a lot of websites won't list the ingredients. We've made sure on Jo.Divine, that we list the ingredients, because I want people to know exactly what's in these products. But then we only sell 3 lube brands. We don't sell 150 or the number that's out there.
I got sent one the other day, and I just came back and asked her what's the pH and what's the osmolality, and they gave me a range of pH, which I kind of thought, okay, do you not know exactly what your pH is? Is that because each batch is different that you're giving yourself a range, or why are you giving yourself a range? And when it came to the osmolality, it was like, we don't test for that because it's not a requirement. Like, okay, well, there you go then. It'd be nice to know though, wouldn't it? Nice to know if you had
it would. I mean, because we have Sutil Rich, it actually has got a pH of 6, which would be slightly higher than the vagina, but a lot of people are using it as a vaginal moisturiser. I mean, it's great as an anal lubricant because it's long-lasting water-based lube. But, so it's actually about people finding out, what suits them. Whereas the Sutil Luxe is always the one that I recommend to people in menopause, because it's got a lower pH as well. But to me, it's always about the ingredients. Because that's actually going to cause the irritation. And also going back to, sort of osmolality, and also some lubes slow down sperm motility. So when people are trying to get pregnant, the poor old sperm's having to swim so hard to get through because, the viscosity of the lube, and the well-known brands, some of them, can actually do that, and so people don't actually understand that, the poor old sperm is having a real struggle trying to get to that egg, even, and so it'd be good if they switch to ones that are sort of sperm friendly.
But again, definitely no nonoxynol 9 on that one, and none of the chlorhexidine either. That would, because they're both
not at all. But things like, I think it was KY, Replens, and Astroglide. I've actually just got my notes here. So, and obviously KY jelly. Poor old sperm. I just imagine him trying to go, oh, it's really hard to swim through this.
So, the other things then that these days that seem to be coming onto the market at a massive rate are, well, I mean, let's have a little look at Lemmy, the perfect little thing to swallow. Did you see that from one of the Kardashian women or whatever it is? I don't even know where to start actually when I see things like that, apart from just sort of like, are you kidding me? Because the message that it sends is basically that there's something really wrong with the way you are naturally, and you have to change the way you smell and the way you look. It just disturbs me. Am I overly?
Well, it's again the intimate hygiene industry, about we need to clean our vaginas because they're dirty and they smell. And, these products do so much harm and good, but I don't even know how you could swallow a little gummy thing and then that's actually going to change the taste of your vagina. I mean, the whole thing is like you could eat pineapple. They were made from was it pineapple flavored? And, you can eat a tin of pineapple and then that will change the taste of you. But I'd actually found another piece of research. It was about people using intimate washes and washing themselves. And actually, one of the things came out was actually a lot of younger women. It's their male partners who want them to use these vaginal washes. Now, I wonder how many of those men actually wash their penises properly, because we know that. Don't. And there's no penis washes out there. There were a couple of brands a couple of years ago. I don't know whether they still exist. But let's face it, men aren't going to go out and buy something specifically to wash their penises. So we've been, indoctrinated us. I don't even know what the word is, to think we've got to. And also, don't across different cultures. This was, I think it might have been Latino culture. And so the way in which they've been brought up to view their bodies, and also sort of, Afro-Caribbean women, we know very much that they're there washing. I've heard about people using TCP and, all sorts of stuff that is so bad for your intimate health, for this whole washing. But I don't even know how you could eat something and it's actually... What is she saying? I've got
asparagus changing the smell of your urine, but it's a vastly different thing to eat something and have it get to you. I mean, that's going through your circulatory system, through your kidneys, and now it sort of makes sense. But that really just doesn't.
And also, it's frustrating when you've got doctors on Instagram who are like, an intimate wash brand ambassador. And then you see all the comments and you can see they're from young women. Go, oh, you're amazing. Yes, I use this. And she was at a girls' grammar school, said, oh, yeah, it was the brand of choice. She said, whatever I used to say to people, you don't need to use it. You just need to wash your vulva with water. You can't wash your vagina. But the problem is while these products exist, and don't get me wrong, the menopause market now is strongly being targeted, people will use them and they don't realise, you actually don't need to use it. But if you're getting pressure from a partner to say, well, and if a partner says, oh, you smell a bit, but our vagina smell changes throughout our cycle anyway. And if it is really smelly, then it could be bacterial vaginosis, which you've probably caused by using your wash, and you need antibiotics for it. Yeah. So, I think it's again getting people to understand that actually, your vagina does have this musky smell and it changes, throughout the month, as well as like your discharge changes as well. But, again, it's somebody jumping on the bandwagon, and no doubt millions of women will buy it because it's who she is.
No doubt millions of people will. This is very, very true. The other thing that is of interest is that I've noticed popping up in my social media thing quite regularly, and I preface this by saying that a couple of weeks ago I hosted a panel at a menopause conference on the need for regulation when it came to novel devices in the menopause market, and these in this area, we were actually really talking about, the CO2 fractional lasers, the radio frequency devices, the things that you would find in a clinic that, even somebody like I could buy. Normally, my social media feed gets full of a lot of stuff like, from China saying, would you like to buy this device? And I normally sort of go block, delete. But because this conference was coming up, I thought, okay, I'm going to engage. So I did. And I said, yes, I would really love to buy a CO2 fractional laser with a handpiece for vaginal tightening, or vaginal rejuvenation. And she said, not a problem. I said, I don't have any medical qualifications. And she said, that doesn't matter. And I said, okay, what about my hairdresser friend up the road? She'd like to put one in her hairdressing salon. Could she get one too? Yes, if you buy two, I'll even throw in a free hydrofacial. And I thought, woohoo, we're in. So I'm opening up across the country, Fifi's Fabulous Fannies, coming to a hairdresser near you anytime soon. So yes, there needs to be regulation, because those devices in my hands and my hairdresser's friends' hands could do you serious, serious damage. But you can now buy them for home use as well. And this is what's popping up in my feed. These things heat tissue up to 42 degrees. That's quite hot. And some of them use electric current. Some of them use LED light. Some of them use the radio frequency. One thing to buy something for your face where you can see it going red and you can see it burning, but quite another one to buy it to put in your intimate areas. Do you think there should be some close regulation on this?
Oh, goodness. These products have actually been around for quite a while. I remember being contacted by a PR, I don't know, about 5 or 6 years ago. Would I actually be the sexpert on their website for this product? They had a doctor off the telly who was the medical voice. And I just said to her, well, what's the research behind it? You know, and actually I don't really recommend this stuff. And it was even before some of the, you know, vaginal rejuvenation treatments that are done in hospital and in clinic settings by qualified clinicians and professionals were really sort of coming to market or being known about. And so I was sort of, you know, I was like, well, no, it's a no from me, you know. But these, and then I've seen celebrities as well, you know, promoting them. They're part, you know, they're face of the brand as well. But you're right, I went on to Alibaba. I mean, I don't normally Google sort of this, but I thought I'll have a quick Google after we were talking about it. And this one said something about, oh, the hottest temperature it gets to is 43. And I just thought, 43, that's quite hot to put something like that inside your vagina. We have some sex toys that do heat up very gently, but they heat up to body temperature. And it actually does feel like body temperature. Yes, you can feel like, oh, it's warm, but actually I'm not frying my insides. It's actually, this is a pleasurable thing, and it's body temperature. So that's actually what my vagina, that's the temperature it's at. So I just think that, you know, the problem is it's a quick fix, isn't it? These women sort of think, you know, my vagina needs tightening, you know, or it's gone a bit slack after childbirth, or I've got a bit of pelvic floor dysfunction. So see a pelvic health physio, you know, and some of this stuff's available in clinics, and that's fine, and that is regulated, you know, and you've got professionals doing, but not. I'm on about sort of medical clinics. I'm not on about the one that's just opened up on the high street in Fifi's shop, you know. But these women, it's almost like for the quick fix, because they don't want to do the pelvic floor exercises because that's really boring. A lot of people have never heard of pelvic health physios anyway. And also, if they've got a partner going, oh, it all feels a bit different after you've had a baby, or you're in menopause now, and actually, you know, we can't have sex because you've got vaginal atrophy, but you should use this because I've heard that it will rejuvenate. So they get pressure from a partner, or they want to please a partner as well. You know, and for some women, they think it's fantastic and it's cured them, and, you know, it's helped and it's tightened them up, and this whole thing of this tight vagina. There are plenty of women out there with a tight vagina who don't want a tight vagina. So, you know,
that is a point. Yes. And also, as with menopause, you know, laxity isn't really an issue. It shrinks. So it's the dryness and stuff that is the problem. And I think,
but are they being promoted to tighten, or they being promoted to heal, to help with vaginal atrophy? You know.
Yeah, both. They're being promoted for well, they're being promoted for three things: for bladder issues, for mucosa, and for tightening. So basically, collagen, stimulating collagen production, regenesis of blood supply to the area to help with the mucosa. And if you've got that extra collagen, then in theory, it should be able to help support the urethra and the bladder a little bit and help with incontinence. But of course, this then comes down to patient selection and how far along, you know, if they've got really bad problems, everybody needs a pelvic floor physio. Everybody does. They'll need a pelvic floor physio. They'll need other interventions, those kinds of things. So it really does come down to a patient selection, but it's certainly not something that you should be sitting at home frying your fanny, basically.
No, exactly. And it's really, I find it quite sad, actually. You know, people often become really desperate, but if they don't know about pelvic health physio, and it's easy to go, but they're not cheap, are they, either? The one I Googled today was 350 quid. I thought you get a lot of pelvic floor sessions for £350. So
£350.
It was a handheld. Yeah, it was a handheld product. So.
Oh, a product. I think you meant for an appointment with a pelvic.
Oh gosh, no. But I'm saying but I'm saying this product was £350. So therefore, you know, that was an awful lot of pelvic health sessions that you could actually have. You'd have a beautiful pelvic floor by the end of that. But you know, I don't know. But it's this quick fix. You know, basically our external bodies have already been targeted. Now our internal organs and bodies are being targeted. So, you know, there's nothing really left in our bodies to not target anymore. You know.
Well, no, you're right. There isn't, because Gwyneth Paltrow is having ozone in her bottom. So you're right. There's absolutely nowhere else to target.
One of the psychosexual therapists that I know, he just posted about it. It's going, this is dangerous. And I have to say, she didn't post a particularly healthy looking picture of herself. And people go, stop having the drip, just eat. It was like, you know, but again, it's trends, these wellness, I hate that word, wellness trends, and people jump on the bandwagon, and brands do. You know, they're crawling out of the woodwork now to target everything about menopause. Now, I came across menopause soup the other day. Stick menopause on anything, and we'll have menopause cars, and, you know, I have no idea, washing machines. You know, they basically, because they think, well, yeah, I can sell stuff. And yeah, and they probably can actually. But these products are potentially dangerous. And, you know, and they shouldn't go anywhere near your vulvas and vaginas. So.
Yeah, they are. That's true. Squidgy over here is saying it's hard to find a good woman's health physio. There aren't a lot of them, but they are around.
They are. If they're in the UK, we've got the POGP, which is the Pelvic and Obstetric Gynecologist Gynecology Physio. They've got a whole website where you'll find people in your area. I'm always happy to give people advice. I'm part of a massive 7,000 pelvic health physio group, and we work with a lot of pelvic health physios. In fact, they're the most predominant healthcare professionals we work with because they're all fantastic. Pelvic Raw, you'll find them on social media. They have a list of people so they can direct you to somebody. Lots of hospitals actually do have a pelvic health physio. The only problem is lots of long waiting lists. I worked with the Chelsea and Westminster, and it was 12 months, and now they've got it down to 9 months. So that's actually a really long time. So if you can afford to pay, it is often worth investing. It's probably about 60 to 80 pounds. It depends on where you are. But even you might just need one session with the physio, and actually they can assess you. They'll examine your pelvic floor. If there's a problem, they can identify it. And these people are the experts. They're brilliant. And we should be using them more and more. And I know they're getting a better profile now with sort of, post childbirth. But it's always my go-to, for me, whenever I talk to somebody, I'm going, well, have you seen a pelvic health physio? It's sort of, and I have that people when they buy dilators or pelvic floor exercises, which we sell on our website. But I actually say to people, if I'm on the phone to them, again, okay, you're buying the dilators, have you seen a physio? Because I'm generally cautious. I'm going, well, it's really good if you see a physio first, or you could buy your dilators and take them to the physio, or the physio can tell you if you need them, and a lot of these physios will actually tell you, a lot of the products that are there for your pelvic floor, they're not that effective. They're not actually going to give you the pelvic floor exercise that you need. But then there are some really good things like the Emsler chair. I think you tried it, where you sit on it, and which, again, it's in the pelvic health clinic. So, but yeah, pelvic health physio, definitely it's, and they're brilliant. I love working with them because they're always so happy to talk about sex, which is great because obviously ultimately they're trying to help their patients enjoy pleasurable sex.
Absolutely. There's a question here from Trish who's asking, what are your thoughts on hyaluronic acid pessaries? And this is because I guess actually moisturisers is also the pH of them and the ingredients. Same applies to the lubes, I'm guessing, yes? Yeah.
Well, I put hyaluronic acid on my face, but actually Sutil contains hyaluronic acid. So we know that it's actually a really good ingredients because it retains the moisture, it keeps everything hydrated. I don't have experience of the hyaluronic pessaries, but Sutil Lux can be used, and the Rich can be used as a vaginal moisturiser too, as well as a sexual lubricant. It's water-based, it's long-lasting. It's actually amazing because it interacts with your own body's natural lubrication and makes you feel wetter. We know that wetter is better when it comes to sexual pleasure. But it's got hyaluronic acid in it. I mean, it's actually, I switched to that. I like Yes oil-based, but actually I've been using Sutil since we added it to our range nearly 2 years ago. And it's our most popular product, and people will come back time and time again. And it's not cheap. But why should you put cheap inside your vagina? If you're spending £100 on a pot of moisturiser for your face, why doesn't what is your sex life worth? That's what I often say to people. Why should you be putting, sort of something out of the kitchen cupboard inside your vagina? But I mean, Sutil, because it's long lasting, a tube's going to last you ages. Because often I'm using a tube, I'm going, no, it's still going. Yeah, we've had lots of sex, but actually, it still keeps going. So that's got hyaluronic acid in it. So that's a really good ingredient. But as I say, I don't have any experience of the pessaries, but I'm assuming if they don't have any other irritating ingredients in them, then they're fine. But obviously, there are different moisturisers.
Well, like the Hyalofem, things like that, I think that are based on hyaluronic acid as a moisturiser.
That has got hyaluronic acid. Yeah, I think it has, as well. But just be aware that some of the vaginal moisturisers, even some on prescription, do contain those irritating ingredients that I talked about. So you do need to say, like the number one brand, you do need to check the ingredients. I mean, I've had women say to me, yeah, my doctor prescribed it, and then my practice nurse had to pick it out with her fingers because it went hard. I've had women say, I've had a really nasty discharge, and lots of stuff has come away. And then people, because it's cleaning out your vagina. I'm thinking, but actually, how much dead tissue is inside the vagina? To me, as a nurse, that sounds like damage. you don't have a lot of dead tissue inside your vagina. So, you know, when you've got dry skin, you're actually moisturising it and hydrating it to bring it back to what it should be, and it's healthy. And so again, if something's giving you a discharge and that isn't right, so, you know, I mean, the SVM, the vaginal moisturiser, that's on prescription, and not all GPs can prescribe it. And a moisturiser is different to a lubricant. So a moisturiser used every few days. You know, I use the SVM twice a week and pop it up inside my vagina, moisturise my vulva. I use a Sutil to moisturise too, but I use Sutil predominantly for sex play with my toys. So, you know, and have a routine and use local estrogen, and only wash my vulva with water and have regular orgasms, because they're going to keep your vulva and vagina happy and healthy, promote the blood flow, promote lubrication, make you feel happy, boost your mood, help you sleep, you know, keep you looking young.
Clearly I need more.
Yeah, I know. I'm not having enough sex.
Oh, that's funny. Made me forget what I was going to say now. What was like, oh, this is what I was going to say about local estrogen. Actually, it's an interesting thing because you don't think about how far you put this up, and so I mean, putting it from one of a more delicate phrase. If any time you want the tone of a conversation lowered, you just come to me. I am the tone lowerer. So when we're putting things up there, most people sort of think, oh, I've got to get it quite a long way up, but really,
it's just halfway up, isn't it? Yeah.
Inside, just up a little bit, about an inch, apparently, according to the French study.
And also, you know, not putting it up at the same time that you put your moisturiser in. You know, and like for me, you know, after sex play, popping it, and I put my moisturising in on a different day to my local estrogen, which I use 3 times a week. I have a little alarm in my phone because I have my testosterone and my HRT, just to remind me that I've got to do all this stuff and take it. And to change my patch because I'd forget otherwise. And so I have these the little alarm goes off, you know, sort of, as my husband said, my vaggie flabs alarm, which that's his phrase for my vaggie work. So put your vaggie flabs up there. But anyway, so yeah, but you know, having this regime, I mean, last night, you know, I wasn't talking at this menopause event, but I just said I started talking about local estrogen, and loads of women had no idea what it was. And then the doctor did start explaining, and it was like, oh, I'm really glad that you told me about this. And the people hadn't heard of it. Because she was talking about, you know, people were asking, how long can you be on HRT? And she said, well, you know, you can come off it. But I just put my hand up and said, but not local estrogen. Because I said, that's coming with me in my coffin. And she was like, oh, no, not local estrogen. And then women go, well, what's local estrogen? So again, we need to encourage women to go and talk to their GP if they're having the genitourinary issues, you know, the cystitis, urinary tract infections, thrush, bacterial vaginosis, it's sore, sex is painful, you know, even, you know, sort of urethral irritation. And get on the local estrogen because it's very safe to use. So, and it can make such a difference.
Oh, huge difference. I now have my I have my box here, my E-string. Love it.
Oh, right, okay.
Game changer.
Yeah, that's the other thing to say about things like, just be aware that a couple of the preparations, the creams, do actually have glycerin in the base carrier. So Avestin, that's come to light in the last year or so with a couple of my customers, and they've been getting thrush. And then I sort of said, actually, because they thought it was the lube, and I'm going, well, actually, what else are you using? But it can't be very much glycerin, but maybe they're just sensitive to it. And so they've switched to a pessary or an E-string, and they've actually been fine. So
the other thing that comes along with that then is that the other thing, you know, when we're talking about pessaries, is the very large and growing market for lactobacillus pessaries, which is, you know, I mean, I guess you kind of think, oh, well, if you've got a glycerin problem and you're getting thrush all the time, then you use a lactobacillus pessary. But are we, you know, then at risk of putting that microbiome sort of out of balance in itself because you're loading it too much with just one type of bacteria?
Well, yeah, because I can't remember how many bacteria are there, and obviously there's one that's more predominant. Is it crispins or something? The lactobacilli, if I pronounce that, crispatus or something, whatever. That's the most. I think that's like the most predominant one, and that's the one that gets destroyed and by a lot of the products that we've been talking about as well, and those ingredients, and you know, pH and osmolality and things like that. So yeah, but it almost feels like, well, if you are getting thrush, then we need to get to the root cause of it, don't we? And find out what actually the cause. The cause of mine was never found. You know, I was offered the advice, iron the gusset of your knickers to kill the thrush bugs by a gynecologist. He's no longer my gynecologist, but no other advice. You know, if anybody had actually sort of even asked me about my sex life, you know, what was I using? Was I using something the oil out of the car or something? So I have no idea. Nobody even asked me. Was I using something from under the kitchen sink to, you know, as lubricant? Not one person asked me. about my sex life, or even what was I washing myself with. And you have to remember that time there was very little intimate washes. There was something called Summer's Eve, which was quite a well-known brand at the time. And so, you know, that was something that you could wash yourself with. I never did use a wash, but I did use a wash to try and get rid of the irritation, which I then realised now I was actually exacerbating the problem because the product had glycerin in it. So it was glycerin on, you know, feeding my thrush going, it was going, this is great. So
yes, not a lot of fun. Is there anything else that we need to think of when we're thinking about, oh, you mentioned raiding the kitchen cupboards there. There seems to be a bit of a thing these days with people saying, well, if you are going to raid your kitchen cupboards, the best option is coconut oil. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I personally wouldn't use coconut oil. It's love it or hate it. It's like Marmite. And a lot of doctors love recommending it because it's cheap. And, you know, and they use it and they're absolutely fine. But coconut oil has this sort of history of being antiviral, antifungal, antimicrobial. But actually, some people can get thrush from it. And also with coconut oil, I always say, make sure it's 100% pure, it's organic, it's in a tube, not a pot, so you're not dipping your fingers in and out of it and contaminating the pot, and make sure it's ethically farmed, not by monkeys on chains. And also remember, it's oil-based. So if you're using latex condoms, it will destroy them. And anything oil-based will hang around inside the vagina and the anus for up to 24 hours. So if you're then the next day using condoms, then there is this potential risk that, you know, the latex condom will be destroyed. But yeah, I mean, coconut oil, I do get a little bit frustrated by it, but, you know, I've got to put, I've never done a post about it because I know how sensitive people are, you know, about it. And, you know, if I talk to people, and also there's another issue, there's a fantastic pelvic health physio called Pelvic Angel, and she does all the pessary talks. She's sort of saying she has an issue with women using coconut oil and they can't wash it off their pessaries. These are pessaries I'm talking about to hold up a vaginal prolapse. So she was just saying it's a real problem. She knows a lot of doctors recommend it, but these women are really struggling to actually wash their pessaries properly, because anything oil-based, you've got to give it a good wash, you know. And also I think coconut oil can actually stain as well, stain sheets. I mean, the oil-based, I've never noticed staining from that. So
couple of good questions here. Anne is asking, if you have thrush and you have an E-string, should the E-string be removed? I would have thought no, just treat the thrush.
Yeah, I think so. Because also you've got to remember the estrogen is actually helping the whole, you know, the health of your vagina, isn't it? So
yes, and over here Trish is saying, good point, actually. Nobody reminds us, which is why I put my glasses on so I can actually read this. Nobody reminds us that when we're younger, after childbirth and while breastfeeding, that the estrogen quite drops, and we can be more prone to other infections, can't we?
Prone to thrush, and you need to use lube as well. And I'm always annoyed when I find out, you know, midwives actually aren't recommending this. You know, it's really important because you can end up with vaginal dryness. Even some women end up with vaginal atrophy. Now, I've actually advised some women, you know, and they had no idea about it. But yeah, I know you are. You're more prone to things like thrush as well, sort of after you've had given birth as well. But definitely, if you're breastfeeding, then you need to be using a good sexual lubricant. So, for, you know, whatever sex play you have, when you're ready to go back to sex. So, hopefully that won't be too long. But
yeah, true. Brilliant. All right. Well, we leave it there. Is there anything else you think that people should bear in mind, or do you think we?
Yeah. Can I just talk about sex toys? Can I just say about materials? So basically, we only sell skin-safe sex toys made from silicone, glass, metal, and ABS plastic. They're all non-porous materials. There's research out there to say that they are skin-safe and they are not going to do your intimate health any harm. The metal toys are made from medical-grade stainless steel, like surgical instruments, and the glass toys are made from borosilicate glass, which is Pyrex dishes. They can both be cleaned as well. Pop them in your dishwasher if you wanted to actually clean them.
Aren't they a bit hard? I looked at that, I kind of thought glass. Isn't that a bit tough?
People like temperature play, so you warm them up in a bowl of warm water and you cool them down in the fridge, not the freezer. So people quite like that because it offers a different sexual sensation. And some people like a hard toy so they can actually sort of stimulate the G-spot. You know, they don't want a toy that's got a bit of squidge. So you need to avoid toys that are made from jelly, latex, or rubber. They're highly porous materials. They absorb bacteria, so you've got this thrush risk there. they leach out chemicals, they degrade over time, degrade with certain lubricants, and they will perfume a lot of the toys. Like we've got a jelly toy in a bag gifted to my son for his 18th birthday, which was nice by his friends. And it stinks because they've actually perfumed it. It lives in the bag with the bath bomb, because obviously I call bath bombs thrush bombs as well, because they're dreadful. If you get given a bath bomb, just soak your feet.
Did your son's friends not know what you do for a living? Did they?
Yeah, but I was really annoyed. I said, you know how much that cost from that website that it wouldn't? They could have spent that much money with us. They used it for the sixth form. He was a fairy. He was a fairy godmother in the sixth form pantomime. So this wand came out. Then I took it off and I said, I'm going to have that. Thank you very much. And I'm going to take it to my talks and tell people. But yeah, so, jelly, latex, obviously there's an issue there with people with latex allergies, and also rubber as well. And I say to people, if you do have products that are made from these materials, pop a condom on them. But you can't clean them properly. So therefore, you've then got this issue of thrush, because that's before we set up the company. I think they were both jelly. One was a rampant rabbit. Thank God the world's moved on since then. And that was jelly. And then that broke down after 2 uses. And then we had another glittery jelly thing. And I got thrush. And no, when I look back now, I know we only used it once. But I realised that was the reason why, because of the materials that they were made from. And be aware, lots of fake and used products available online. The used products, there's lots of samples out there, so they get repackaged, as you don't know. So always buy from a reputable sector retailer. You can call, email, DM, and we can give you advice. And we can tell you, a reputable retailer will be very knowledgeable about their products. So...
To give you a used one, somebody else's used one. No, that's
used ones actually are a thing. There is something, some people do buy used ones and they sterilize, and there are these sterilizers you can buy and everything. But if you're buying a toy and you think you're buying a new toy, just be aware of it. That's why you need to buy from reputable retailers who only buy the genuine products from the manufacturers.
Wow. Louis has one question for you. We'll slip in before the hour's up. What are the alternatives to Vagifem and Avestin? She seems to be sore with both, just constant soreness. So I would be saying.
The E-string.
Yep, the E-string. There's also, there's Blissel, there's Intrarosa.
Yeah.
Gosh, my mind goes blank. There's ospemifene, which is an oral thing.
So I'd say combine them with a moisturiser. So if you're feeling sore, moisturise as well. And obviously make sure you're only washing your vulva with water, because that will help too.
Not at the same time, though. So
not at the same time. Make sure,
a couple of hours earlier. Put the
exactly. Never use them at the same time. Also with the pessaries as well. If you popped in your moisturiser and then your pessary, the pessary is going to slide out. So it's not going to stick to the wall of the vagina. So but definitely if you're feeling sore, but I would persevere. And I'd say there are so many different ones you can try, which is why I always say to people, go back to your GP. You don't have to have this one. Often GPs will only know about one brand, which they really shouldn't, but there are other things that they can actually prescribe.
Yeah, ospemifene apparently, to answer asking, are they getting good results? Apparently, for people, for various people, yes, it does work quite well. I think not everybody can prescribe it. Can everybody prescribe it? Because it's one of those ones that mostly gynecologists know more about than anybody else. It would be sort of your last line. I think it's even suitable for people who've had cancer, although most people would say that most vaginal estrogen is suitable for people who've had cancer. But
lots of people, it's about quality of life, isn't it? So I work with quite a few cancer charities, and it's actually a lot of young women with breast cancer, and it's about quality of life, and it's such a minimal amount of estrogen. But a lot of people would rather take that risk and actually have a better quality of life and be able to have sex and not have those genitourinary issues, and other people don't want to. It's actually about choice, but you've got to give people a choice, and often people aren't given a choice, and they're stuck between the oncologist and the GP, and then they're in this wasteland, and it's really difficult, and they're still struggling with the genitourinary issues, as well as having gone through a cancer diagnosis and treatment. So again, it's always about quality of life, really. So I mean, hopefully in the future new things will come to market that we know will be safer, and more and more stuff's coming. We've got the latest thing with endometriosis today with a new drug trial, which is fantastic. If it is works, then it's going to transform lives. This is really, really good. And we've got Emma Dale doing a story about PMDD. So who knew? Yes, and And IMPMD have been involved, Global have been involved. I'm part of their surgical committee and they've been involved. So we know that they're going to have really good information and advice. So yeah, and it's a young girl and the young girl's got PMDD. So let's hope it helps just one person go to the GP and get, a referral and be diagnosed and treated.
Yeah.
It'll make such a difference. So.
Treated in less than 12 years for endometriosis, that would be a nice thing. Anne is just saying she was frightened of the side effects and makes a note to herself not to read the leaflets, because the leaflets, they have a generic, basically it's sort of, it's a class warning as opposed to just something. It's just a tiny amount of estrogen that's in those pessaries and creams.
Loads of medics are actually trying to get that information changed, but it's such a slow process, and it's ridiculous really, because they're actually they've actually put a leaflet in there that actually is incorrect. So but so many people, women, I've got a box of it but I'm too scared to use it. Well, please use it. If you're really concerned, talk to your GP about it. So
absolutely. Good. All right, we are up to the hour, so let me let you go. Thank you very, very much for that. That was lovely, and we should do this more often.
Thank you anyway.
Everybody, this is Sam Evans from Jo.Divine. You can find her online for wonderful products. We will speak to you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.